Bless you.
Ready?
Hello, everyone. Hello, seers. Hello, seers.
Hello, Dr. Kim.
Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Great. How about yourself, sir?
I'm great. How are you guys doing? Everybody's doing good?
Awesome.
Yeah, it's good to see
Great
you all. Let me get my big screen up so I can see all your beautiful faces. This is a special day that the Lord has made that we should rejoice and be glad, as y'all know where I'm coming from.
Amen.
Let
Amen.
me see if y'all got, let me see if y'all got prophetic insight. If you know where I'm coming from, it's a special day.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, yeah.
Glory
So
to
good to
God.
see each of you on here tonight. Welcome to everyone as you guys are joining in. I'm attempting to go live from home tonight, so we're just going to pray that Mr. Ian doesn't decide to teach my class. I just didn't want to be at the store office that late. I wanted to be home, so that's why we have a nice little home office. But he doesn't have a. I don't have a locked door in the house. Period. So that he cannot lock himself in. So if he comes through, we will continue to be patient. Olivia's grown out of that stage. She might peep over a minute, but she won't disturb. Okay, so everybody, welcome, welcome. Good evening to see you guys, you ladies. It's good to see you. You know, we always meet at the right time, right? Right during the time that
Amen.
things are just hyped up. God is true to his word. If you all remember back before September, I remember sharing with you that prophetically that this was going to be an election like we've never had before, that we were going to see, look, we never had before. And I remember saying to you all that God was showing us that it was going to almost be like the Tilden Hayes compromise that took place,
Right.
that it was so close like this. And that is exactly what we're seeing tonight. But thank God for the mail-in process. At least we don't have to talk about Russian interference. But the actual democratic voting policy is being carried out right now. And more people have voted in this election than in the history of this country. So
Oh, wow.
that's a good thing when so many people have voted. That is a really good thing. So I want to encourage you all and thank you if you voted to say good thing, good thing. And your vote does count. Your vote matters. It does. So tonight, we're not going to talk about the election, actually. We're going to go forth into our lesson, and we'll talk about the election when I do my book talk, because I do talk about moving forward. And if you guys haven't gotten my new book, I'm going to post it in the chat section. Please, if you're on the church app, you can order it direct. And if you've already gotten a book from me, you actually have another book waiting for you. You get another book complimentary because the book you have, the publisher printed the wrong draft. So if you found like 500 comments, 500 mistakes, it is not because I'm illiterate, but I did get a new free books printed again because they did print the wrong order. So at the church, if you got it at the drive up at the church, your new book is waiting for you at the church. If you ordered it by mail, you should have it today, or you should have had it sometime this week, at latest Monday. But I sent you a new book signed, and the new book is very much different from the other because the cover is the right gloss that it's supposed to be, very high end. And from the get-go, there are no mistakes. If you open the original book, the very first acknowledgement has mistakes. And so some kind of way in the process, they printed the wrong draft. So they had to acknowledge it and printed a new one. So I'm very happy about that. So I look forward to sharing in the book with you all at a separate time. But this is our second year, our new year for the School of the Prophets. And if you've had a chance to take a look, we have posted that we are starting the beginner class again in January. I like to get a little past the holidays, give people time to sign up. So we do have a registration that is going on. And if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see it up there. And I would encourage you to, if you didn't get all of the classes, sign up and start those classes again with us in January. but we're getting ready to move forward. Now, am I seeing Tracy and Tanya in the same room? You know that's going to be trouble right there. That's trouble right there. The two of them in the same room. Hello, everybody. Hello to all of you. So as others are coming in, we got quite a load tonight. We began our second year with an introduction last month to the book of Amos. And I also asked you all to take the time to read that book. Tonight's session does not focus on Amos, although there'll be room to discuss Amos. But tonight's session is really an introduction, opening the door for what we're called to do in this season. Let me mute everybody. Here we go. Okay, I'll mute everybody. Here we go, so you all can hear me. If you can hear me, just put a thumb up. I want to make sure I'm being heard there. Okay, good, good. Okay, so in this new season, I like to introduce it with the PowerPoint. So hold on for a second. I'm gonna share my screen with you, and we're gonna take a look. Here we go. Okay, so this is School of the Prophets 2, and this is Discerners and Revealers. Okay, we're going to the next phase now. Amos, the nobody prophet, is how we introduced this. The Lord was standing by a wall that had been built true to plumb. And we started off with this scripture. And then the Lord said to me, "What do you see, Amos?" And Amos said, "A plumb line." And I replied, that's what he replied. Then the Lord said, "Look, I am setting a plumb line among my people Israel. I will spare them no longer." I do want to make this comment prophetically tonight, that this scripture is very timely for what's going on in our country. This election has certainly revealed the great divide in America. America has a great divide, and we have clearly seen that it's split right down the middle, almost literally. We're not a country with 10% racism and 90% this or that. We are a country that's split on many different topics, not just race, but we are split down the middle on abortion. We're split down the middle on same-sex marriage. We're split down the middle, period, on everything. And in the process, it does not seem like we have reached a place where we can mutually work together. And so we, in essence, are like this plumb line here. The plumb line is straight, but if God measures us against this plumb line, it's not good. And he says, "And I will spare them no longer." Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of prophetic of what God was saying to me about this a little later. But as we move forward, the public and private life of a person, many are desiring a public ministry, but no private revelation. This is the problem with a lot of prophets, a lot of people who so-called proclaim to be prophets. They want this public ministry, but they obviously don't have a private revelation. To know God's voice is to know his word. Even if you never prophesy in public, you should know what God is up to. Okay, so everybody won't have a prophecy, a public prophetic ministry per se. But everybody should, by all means, know what God is up to. And every believer has been given discernment and sensitivity to the Holy Spirit. And I want to put a special note there, because where we're going to start is with discernment. This season, we're going to really delve into discernment. We didn't delve into it a lot. Last season, we talked about dreams, we talked about visions, because you needed to know that you were in the right place. But now we're going to go beneath the surface and deal with discernment, right? Discerning and sensitivity to the Holy Spirit, which means it requires that we know the word of God. So you're going to get a lot of scripture in this season. It requires that we are in relationship with Jesus Christ, no question about that. And it requires that we submit to the Holy Spirit's leading. That's going to be the second half of this course. And we must be teachable. That is very important. I've found that sometimes people are not teachable. They may be in the class, but they're not getting the lesson. It amazes me how people can hear something, but when you ask them to relay what they've heard, it's not accurate. And I'm at this place now where I'm really putting a plumb line out there about accuracy. Like, you know, to get a revelation is one thing, but to really interpret where it's coming from, if it's from God, is number one. Number two, where in the Word of God is the support for the revelation. That is very important, because these are the credentials of a true prophet, is that you're able to hear God and be accurate, and the Word of God supports what you believe God is saying, because what God is saying, He has already said in His Word. Okay. With that being said, what we're going to do is cover the 5 senses of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and smelling in the spirit, and then the 6th sense of knowing in the spirit. So there's 6 senses that we're going to cover, 6 of them: seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and knowing. Okay. These are the things that we're going to cover. Please don't try to write it all, because I'm posting it for you guys in our special Basecamp page that we're going to have. So you won't have to worry about writing all this down. I'm going to make sure you get this PowerPoint. Okay. Now, here we go. You definitely need to have a journal that you can date. That's very important to this class this season. A journal that's set aside strictly for your class, that you can write a date in it, and then an entry, whatever you get. You need to have that, because you won't benefit from this course if you don't have the practice or the discipline of writing in a journal. You're gonna have to do it, because you won't know if your senses are awakened to God without this journal that you can go back and read some of the entries. You're gonna need to have a phone that can take pictures and print and share abilities. That's a little later on, so don't panic if you got a flip phone. Okay, then again, panic if you have a flip phone, yes. Number 3, you're gonna have to choose an accountability partner, someone that you can be accountable to and they can be accountable to you through this 2nd phase. And then you will complete projects as a team. So they're gonna be projects that are gonna take 4 people, 3 to 4 people on the team together to complete the projects. I'm sorry, I'm letting someone in that I didn't see was still out there. Those are the requirements. And with that being said, the video from each of these sessions will also be made available, but they'll be edited in the event that God is speaking to people some personal things that we don't need to have out there. So don't be feeling like you can't talk, because this will be edited before it is presented. And I will use discretion and wisdom about what we put out there to people, because I really feel it's very personable, in the same time that God is dealing with each of us. And sometimes everybody don't need to see that. Okay. So with all of that being said, let's go into the lesson. So the first scripture that I have for you tonight is actually Hebrews 5:14, and I printed it on the screen, and I printed it in a standard version and the King James. So I'm gonna go down to the bottom and read the King James first, which says, but strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. And up top it says, but solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained their senses to distinguish good from evil. Solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained their senses to distinguish good from evil. Now, the comparison of this verse is in the previous verse, verse 13, that actually says that milk is more so for the babes that desire milk. But for you, you're getting the meat. And I feel that that is the case with this group. You guys are definitely not milk group. You all are not on milk. You are on meat. And it's for the mature. But look at this. It requires constant use. Constant use, meaning you have to, this is going to be a season where we move from hearing God to practicing. We're going to move from sensing that this is what God is saying to actually putting it out there. All right. Because through the practice, you're going to see that your senses spiritually are going to be trained to distinguish between good and evil. This is so exciting. Let me just share with you why I'm excited about this at this moment. It's because right now, where we are, smack dab in the middle of an election results, we see a very strong example of good and evil. And we as believers are at peace when we recognize the difference. But as prophets, we're kind of not at ease until we speak to the condition. All right, I'm gonna say it again. As believers, you feel at peace to know that you picked up what you picked up. Okay, yeah, he not right. Okay, he right. That kind of consoles you. Don't feel like you crazy. But as prophets, we got to go beyond just discerning what's good and what's evil, but we got to speak to the situation. All right, are you all hearing me on that? You are called to speak to the situation. Now, speaking to the situation, and I'm going to drop my screen for a second so I can see you. Speaking to the situation isn't just about everybody going forth and prophesy to the nation. It's not so much your assignment to the nations as it is to the neighbors, as to people right there in your circle, in your vicinity. Because you got to remember, God has strategically placed you as people with the prophetic. And so on your job, you know, in your home, in your community, you know, there are a lot of people who don't have the gifting. That's why God put you there. And you're going to know God put you there because they'll have conversations that'll start to irritate you. I'm all in your business right now. I heard the Holy Spirit say, and you're sitting there saying, how much more of this do I need to listen to? And this season now that we're in, glory, hallelujah, it's your assignment in this season to I'm getting ready to release you in this season to speak. Glory, hallelujah. You're getting ready to use your gifts. And here's the good thing. It's not out of order as long as you operate in order, right? Because prophets got to have discipline. This is why some people can't be received. They can't be received because they don't have disciplines. You know, as soon as they get something from God, they're going to scream it to the world. Let me tell you something. The place where God has assigned me to speak prophetically has not just been through my books, but on social media. I know for a fact that I'm called to speak to the things that are happening and to clarify the good from the evil and to boldly speak it. I know it. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not easy. It's really not easy. Y'all don't know how I struggle with a statement God told me I needed to put on there, that a vote for Donald Trump is a vote for racism. That was a very strong statement, and it drew much criticism, but prophetic draws criticism. You know, the prophets in the scriptures, they were challenged. People didn't just love on them and say, you want a cup of coffee? Come on over. People were hating on them because they weren't telling people the things they want to hear. They were telling them what they needed to hear. And the Lord said to me, your statement settled for many people what they needed to do because they were torn in their decision about voting. He says, and the statement I gave you was the thing that was necessary. He said, because many people are hiding behind the plea for anti-abortion and anti-gay marriage. They're hiding behind that to avoid America's original sin, which is slavery and racism. And when the Lord showed that to me, he reminded me, you wrote about it. You've written about it. He said, go back to 5780. He said, you think I'm going to let any one of those words fall to the ground? He says, no, I'm not going to let that word fall to the ground. I'm going to honor every word. He said, 400 years is over. He says, and now Pharaoh does not want, meaning the system, not Trump, the system does not want to let God's people go. Okay? And if you go back and look politically at all of the arguments for abortion against and for gay marriage against, that's been settled in the states. This is really not about that. This is really about freeing the people, the original Jews, the people of color. This is about freeing them, freeing us, and freeing those who've oppressed us, right? So it's very critical that you realize that when God gives you discernment to see between good and evil, at some point, you're going to speak to the evil. You're going to speak to the situation. I want to point out a young man who's on here who I wanted to say, Brother Jordan, how I really say hats off to you. And I supported you fully when you exposed and spoke to a prophet that's well known and versing how you felt about his poor dialogue around some situations. And you had every right to make that declaration about Dr. Gall. You had every right, because the point is this: it doesn't matter how spiritual we are. It doesn't matter how accurate we were in the last season. Prophets can be off. Okay? And here's the thing that I believe we're getting ready to speak to more than anything, is how prophets cannot be true oracles of God until they themselves have been delivered from a level of blindness. Because if you are speaking, but you're seeing a distorted image, you're speaking from that perspective. Okay? This is why Paula White made a fool of herself yesterday. Okay? And she embarrassed the kingdom, because there are people who don't know the difference. And the Lord said to me, when I'm ready, you're going to release to the people what they need to know about this. You ain't got to call her a false prophet, because she was a true prophet. She's just out of order right now. So she's not a false prophet. False prophet means that she ain't right, ain't been right. No, God called her. Ain't no mistake about it. But somewhere along the line, I can tell you what happened. She abandoned the real assignment. You see, because prophets don't just speak to the future. Prophets correct leadership. Look through the scripture. Every one of those prophets were assigned to correct governmental leaders. God put them in place to speak to the government, because the government that rules the nation needed God to lead them. And she, along with all the other little faith-based people running around the White House, none of them, they were all yes people. None of them has spoken to this critical situation. Even last night, she had a chance to redeem herself. When her president called her in the middle of the night and she comes running to pray for him, that was the moment. That was the moment for Nathan to correct David. That was the moment for her to say to him the right thing to do right now. And I don't even know what God is doing with me right now. I just know I'm going wherever he take me. But I saw so clearly, and I shared it on our broadcast Thursday night, what should have happened between those two men. One should have called the other and say, hey, look, while this is a battle, let's go have a bite. Let's meet in this city and let's go eat. We are still two human beings that a whole country relies on either of us or both of us. Imagine what that would have done for our nation that's so greatly divided. That's what a prophet should tell it. But when she started summoning the angels from Africa, God said, correct it right there. There's where the error is. And I'm talking to you so you understand how a prophet can discern. Here is where the error is, because human beings do not summon angels to leave an assignment that God has given them. So if they're assigned to a region, you don't have power to pull them from that region to any other region. That is authority that only God has, and that was a clear indication. And when you're speaking to things that are evil or good as a prophet, you got to be able to draw from the nature and character of God to help people understand what's right with that picture or what's wrong with that picture. And there are many people that I've known as good prophets, true people, but they've had moments. And as you're going to see in a moment, you're going to have moments too. I had moments too. Okay, let's take a look at that. And then we're going to have a good dialogue in just a few moments. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So we agree that the food that you're getting is solid food and it's for mature people. All right, and I'm just going to be real honest with you. Mature people can handle what I'm saying and not walk away mad, because this is a class, and a teacher's responsibility is to slap it on you straightforward without a chaser. It's not a pacifying moment. It's time that we learn and that we understand by these disciplines things happen. You know, we should know that people can be wrong. so that we don't get to thinking that Christianity is not real, that serving God's not real. No, it's human beings, and human beings can be wrong. I would love to take you through some of the scriptures where prophets had to be corrected by God because they just thought that they're supposed to go gung-ho at the people. And God said, no, you're going to do what I say. Okay? Because sometimes when God gives you spiritual eyes and ears, you hate what you see. And it's very easy to confuse what you see with what you feel. And your feelings get in the way, and then you don't deliver God's message the way he wants you to deliver it. Okay? So take a look at this. I want to talk for just a fun moment here. Let's have a little fun. I'm not asking y'all to tell me how old you are, but I just want to know if you all ever heard of or remember the days of black and white TV only. Okay? And I can say, even though I'm young, I do remember too. I'm 54, but I'm old enough that I do know about black and white TV. Okay? But for me, I came along during the era of two TVs in the house. There was a black and white and there was a color TV, right? In my family house, the black and white TV might not have been a good picture, but it had good sound. Okay? So then you had the color TV on top of the black and white TV. The white TV was a great big hi-fi, we called it, a big stereo component. And then you set your new color TV on top, and it had the antennas. And when all went wrong, you put some aluminum foil on the antennas, okay? And if one TV went out, you had one for sound and one for picture, okay? So I remember those days. In fact, I'm still very much a supporter of black and white movies because they're movies that I remember that I was so fond of growing up. TV shows like Leave It to Beaver, you know, though it was a second generation, it was my uncle's generation that got it first in their 60s, but I got it right after that. They were born in 55, but I was born in 66, but I loved Leave It to Beaver and Dagwood and Blondie. I loved those shows because I watched them because my uncle watched them and he was my babysitter. So I watched My Three Sons and Father Knows Best. So I did get a great deal of the black and white era. We watched Lucy all the time. But then we watched Carol Burnett on Saturday nights in Living Color, live. You know, we watched the Flintstones, you know, all these different shows that were in color for my generation. The Jetsons was something that you just dreamed of, you know? And now today we are using almost every single gadget that they created for that TV show. All right. But then we transitioned from color TV. I'm getting ready to go back on some folks. To special movies that came out that you had to go to Burger King and get the 3D glasses and you get to watch King Kong in 3D. Okay? The 3D effect was powerful for us. All right? But then if you got real sophisticated, a little later, you went and bought this TV bigger than your room. A projection screen TV. You had this great big TV sitting up in that little bedroom, but it was a big screen, projection screen. And you thought you had it going on, right? Especially the NFL games. The players are almost life size. But then here comes this thing called plasma flat screen TV that started out being so expensive. I looked it up. The initial TVs were $6,000 when they first debuted. But as they became very popular, as you know, the price went down, and on Black Friday, people will be fighting at Walmart to get one. Okay, flat screen, right? But then flat screen, which I had, got replaced by high definition flat screen, which is a whole nother level of seeing. Now, the reason why I'm taking you through this process is because this is the same process you will go through with your spiritual gifting of prophecy. This is the process that you are going to have to go through as your gift is sharpened. First, your gift seems like black and white. Then your gift starts to get more color to it. Then it starts to get more dimension. Then it starts to become illuminated. Then it becomes simple. and lightweight, not a heavy thing. And then it becomes picture perfect clear, HD. This is the reality. Now, here's the wonderful blessing. Once you get to HD, you don't want to go back. Because now that you have perfect vision, you don't want anything less than that. Now, I put on here the Twilight Zone for a reason, because I watch it every night. I watch it at 11:30 every night on MeTV. And I'm going to tell you why I watch it, because I'm weird, number one. I watch it for several reasons. I watch it because I really do like the plot of many of their stories every night, because it's talking about someone experiencing life outside of normal. And sometimes because they're begging for it, and sometimes because they need to experience it. And so as a result, they either deal with some consequences for being outside of the norm, or they see something they did not see before being outside the norm. Y'all see how weird I am? Okay. But the other reason why I watch it is to see how what I remember watching as a kid with my uncle, how my perception has changed about it. There are some episodes I remember scared the lights out of me as a kid. And now I'm like, that was aluminum foil. That was aluminum foil suit he had on. Like now what seemed to have been animals and scary figures, to me, it's very clear to me because of my exposure that that was their best effort at creating something. Now, I brought this up because I think it's a good example for you and how you will measure your growth as a prophetic voice or as a seer or as a person that is an audible speaker for God, that you should be able to see growth that is clear and evident, not something that's skewed. You ought to be able to see growth in your life. Okay? Other people ought to be able to see that growth in your gift. Very important, because prophets are not validated just by God alone. They're validated by the words that come to pass via the people. The people are the ones that say, he's a true prophet, she's a true prophet. When time brings it to pass, people validate it and say, well, you know what? Charlotte said that. And as much as we might want to say, oh, no, it was the Lord, it still makes you feel good to know that he did speak accurately through you and to you. It does encourage you. Okay? So this whole idea in this journey of discovering your senses, the six senses, is to sharpen the gifts. So it's not just enough that you had dreams last year. This year, you've got to see and be able to see what those dreams really mean and how they're to be applied and when you're to speak and who you're to speak to. Very clear. Because you can't walk all your life in uncertainty. Not rewarding. And I'm not saying you're going to be cocky either. Okay? But you can't walk around all the time questioning, okay, I wonder, is this what the Lord want me to say? At some point, you got to know it's God. God's saying this. Because let me tell you what happens when we continue to walk in fear with our gift. We will mess up what God said. We won't give the full message the way he says because we're looking at the people or we're thinking about what their response is going to be, and we won't see what God wants. Let me share this with you. For months now, I've been thinking about the Braxton family for many months. I stopped watching the show a long time ago. You know, I grew up with them. The mom and the dad, both are my very good friends. So we've talked on many occasions. The last time I talked to the mom, she actually got mad at me because I had shared some things with her that she needed to really do to get healed and move forward. And so I didn't hear from her for a while. Well, about 6 months ago, I found myself playing Toni Braxton's music every day while I'm at work. And I was just playing the music, and, you know, I love some of the songs anyway, but I just kept thinking about how God blessed this girl to reach a level of recognition around the world that is only second to Whitney Houston, basically. That's huge. But then I start to think about what happened to Whitney Houston, you know, and I start thinking about when Bishop Jakes spoke to them, you know, and And all this time now, I'm still listening to her music. And so one day I decided to just send a message to her mom and says, been thinking about you guys, been listening to Tony's music all this month. And I can honestly say she is definitely nothing short of a Whitney Houston, you know, and that seemed to got the ball rolling again with the thank you, love you, miss you type stuff, you know. But it wasn't until about a month ago that I got a call from her dad saying he wanted me to be in prayer. And I couldn't put it out there because it wasn't out there in the media fully yet anyway. But most people who read the media said they got it, that Tamar got rushed to the hospital, that her boyfriend found her unresponsive. But her dad told me very clearly what had happened. And I said, I'm going to pray. But then I got something for him. And it was a struggle because we've been friends. But I had to tell him. At that very moment, while you're hoping for your daughter to get through this, I'm telling you something to throw a little bit of more fuel on that fire. You know, you would think that I would have just waited, you know, because he just want to pray her through. But I believe what I had to say was necessary to help him pray the right way for her. He needed to pray and ask God to forgive him so that God would save his daughter. Okay. And I remember I texted to him so there'd be no discrepancies about what was being said. And I also told him, when you get to that hospital, if you're able to go out there, because he's technically can't go to California because of the heights and the altitude, he could very easily have a heart attack. He has some kind of condition that he can't do that. I said, some kind of way, you all need to tell her that I said, that the Lord said, he's not done, because she has a calling of her life that is going to be revealed through this, and she'll never turn around again. So she must live. Okay. Didn't hear anything else anymore. I prayed. I figured things were going better. And then the other week, the Lord gave me a dream. Oh my God, y'all, the dream was so vivid. I was coming down this hill toward a valley, and I passed by Tony Braxton on the left side. That was dead on the side of the road, split into half. So there were two Tonys on the road, two total persons. And when I passed by and got to the bottom of the hill, I was talking to the sisters and the mother. And I said, you guys got to realize what this is doing to her. This is destroying her. This public life is destroying her. She's going to die to this if you guys don't take her hurt and pain seriously. But as I'm talking to them, it wasn't Tony I was talking about. It was Tamar. And the Lord showed me them laughing at her. So I text their mom the next morning, Miss E, and I said, Miss E, if you would be so kind to call me, I have a vision from God and a word for you. And she called. And I shared the dream, and there was silence. And I'm still talking, because sometimes, and I'm telling y'all what's happening so you understand when you're in the same situation, sometimes silence can make you wonder, okay, am I off? You know, because we're so used to seeing people get all emotional stuff when people tell them things. But no, she actually was silent because she was in shock. Because what I was describing was what had been happening that no one knew, because it has not been aired on television yet. I described a literal family conversation they had, and the ones I said laughed that were in the room were the ones that had the problem with Tamar and did not believe her pain was as real as it is. And I said to her, I don't know what's getting ready to happen that God would have me had this dream last night, because I had the dream the night before. She said, Bishop Coates, she said, you had no idea what's about to happen in about another hour. I said, I don't. She said, my daughter Tamar is about to go on television and tell everything about us that she feels to Tamron Hall. She said, all eyes are going to be on her. And she says, and this relationship and blah, blah, blah. I said, Miss E, you better hear me. You got to get your daughters on the line, and you guys got to pray, and you got to ask God to forgive you for not taking her pain serious. I said, if you can do that in the next half hour, That interview is going to bless your life. If you haven't, go watch the interview with Tamar and Tamron Hall. When I tell you that that new Tamar has emerged, there is no question about it that she has had an eye-opening experience. And the way she's talking like a person who's no longer under a spell. The last thing she texted was to me and to her dad, and everybody said, I'm ready to take the pain and put it into my music. This girl is talking about the grace of God that saved her in this, and how she's walking away from that public life. God has severed the relationship between her and the young man the witch put in her life to help bring her to the point of death. Because see, when God has a great call on your life, the enemy will assign demons to court you and to love on you and to tell you you're wonderful. And when she spoke in that testimony, and she said on that show, she says, I look at what I saw and I clearly could see that I was hurting, that I was dying. And I know it's real because she ain't had no makeup. She's literally taking things off. And what's happening now is that WeTV is now going to try to push and promote what they made money off of, because she was under contract. So the prophetic has got to get so sharpened for you, because their lives at stake. And as simple as you might think your dream might be, it could be saving a whole family. And now imagine how many people Tamar is going to influence based on the number of people that followed her in her craziness. Now she has started a new podcast to talk to that pain. Okay? They ain't gonna promote that, you understand? Because see, those TV shows need drama in order to get ratings. So just that example to share with you how your gift has to sharpen. And how do we do that? Let me share that with you, and then I would love to hear your comments tonight. Here is how you sharpen that gift. Surrender. Surrendering your senses to God. In other words, I present my senses to God. God, I'm giving you my senses. I'm giving you my ability to hear, to see, to touch, to smell, to taste. I'm giving this to you, Lord. I'm not going to walk in fear. I'm presenting it to you. And then, Lord, I'm going to walk in it. I'm going to practice. When I think I'm hearing something from you, I'm not going to be afraid to share what I believe I'm hearing. And I won't be afraid to say, oh, well, I was wrong if I'm wrong. Because this is how your gift gets out the box and God starts using it. Because if you're ever wrong, then you say, oh my God, I'm just never saying nothing no more. That's what the enemy wants. No, you're a human being, and human beings can be wrong. The problem is when human beings think they're always right. So when they have a wrong moment, it really comes down on them because you thought you was right all day long. But it's better to say, I believe God is saying this to me, and if I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected. Don't come out talking about, thus said the Lord. God told me to tell you this, because then people come back and say, well, can you clarify that part for me? Well, you're going to have to pray about that because I don't know. I just said what he said. No accountability. No. You should be able to go back and say, this is what I was hearing. This is what I was sensing. See what I'm saying about the senses, the spiritual senses? This is what I believe I was feeling from God. And I put them down here for you to understand them. Needing our spirit man to come alive. An example, seeing. God gave you a snapshot of something. God gave you a dream of something. God gave you a quick glimpse of something. Feeling. God's emotions. This is how you know sometimes when God is speaking to you, because he will let you feel what he feels. And you're trying to figure out, why am I so angry with this? Because God's angry. Now comes the discipline of how do you share it without getting all out of control? You know? And the way I look at it is when a child is showing off and the older brother or sister's there and trying to tell them, get it in line because mommy's hot, mommy's angry. That daddy is upset, he's gonna get you. That is the best way to put it for me, so that I don't take what God has given me as his anger and take it overboard and start saying what I want to say. Then the smell. This is another example. Reacting to offense or even pleasantness that others do not sense. Like, for example, when I've had to go pray for people in the home and I smell the most rotten egg smell ever, like sulfur, and nobody else smells it, then I know what that is. It ain't no eggs burning. That's a spirit. And let me show you how my senses get sharpened. I begin to ask God to reveal what those spirits are. So the next time I smell that, no matter where I am, chances are it's the same spirit. I don't know if y'all know this, but hell is a stinky place. It ain't just a hot place. People that have had encounters with near-death experiences that have experienced hell have experienced an odor that would turn your stomach inside out. And it would make sense because it's dead stuff. Ain't no life in hell. So sometimes you're going to sense something that smells good or something that smells bad, a pleasant smell. Sometimes what you sense might make you want to throw up. And I've often known that when I feel like I'm going to throw up and my wife is not pregnant, then it's a defiling spirit, meaning somebody has something defiling going on that they cover up with a really good cover. They look really, it's been churches I had to go to and the pastor invites me in their office and I'm not lying. And the armor bearer can tell you, I got to go find a bathroom and try to throw up solidly because what I sense is that it ain't the people, it's the pastor. People that would try to be real holy in front of you because they know you're a prophet and they're afraid that you might pick up on something. So this is just a few examples that I give you about seeing, feeling, smelling, tasting. The taste one really gets me. There have been times I've been around in a place where there's a bad spirit and I need some mints. I'll ask somebody quick, can you get me a mint? Because this taste in my mouth is like something that makes me feel like I'm going to puke. And that's when I realized, hold up, coach, you did surrender your gifts to God. Don't look at this in the natural. You're the only one in the room that's feeling like this. Look at this in the spirit. Okay. With that being said, it comes down to discernment. Discernment is for both good and evil. You don't always discern bad stuff. You should be able to discern good things. You can tell, you can sense that somebody has a good heart. There's something so radiant about you. You might see a glow on someone that nobody else sees. I never forget this one lady I was ministering to, and I kept seeing this white glow over her, and nobody else saw it. So it was for me to know that she had a good spirit and that she had this aura about her where the presence of God was resting on her. And I was able to say to her, the presence of God is resting on you right now. If you would just lift your hands. She didn't even know it. And the word discernment comes from the word diakrisis, which means to separate, distinguish between. Even when you have a dream or vision, you got to be able to discern if it was from God or not. That's something you learn to discern. Think about the images in the dream. Think about what smells and things you had, and what could this be applied to? Because every dream is not from God. And then it requires sometimes to get, it's requiring some give and take, trial and error. You're not always right. I laugh about this because I remember on one of our calls, someone thought that a person on the call was a witch and they took a snapshot of her. And when they sent it to me, I had to vouch for them that no, she's not a witch. It's just a bad hair day, but they received it because sometimes our natural eyes give us a different interpretation than what the spiritual eye would give us. You got to know that discernment is not just about what you see with your physical eye first. It really isn't. It's more so about what you see in the spirit. And you have to surrender those senses to God. Trial and error. Overcoming fears so that you can practice discernment. Everywhere you go, discernment, it should be on point. Everywhere you go. What if you got to your job and found and didn't realize that your coworker was going to come back and try to kill everybody? Somebody on that job should have discernment to know this ain't right, y'all. He coming back. We got to get up out of here. Somebody's got, boss, you got to reach out to him. This is not a good situation. Because discernment will save lives. Discernment will save lives. So how do we surrender? Well, Romans 12:1-2 says, I beg you by the mercies of God, present your actual body as a living sacrifice. Now, what does that mean in our day and time? It means present yourself like you're doing right now. Attend these classes. Present yourself a living sacrifice. Okay? But then he talks about this life called holy and acceptable, which is your reasonable service. Meaning you're not perfect, but live something for God. Because if we're not living something for God, then our flesh is more alive than the spirit man. And we will start getting things in the flesh and interpreting it all wrong. So a surrender of our spiritual senses does not fully happen without a surrender of our physical body. I'm going to be honest, and I say this, I love all of y'all, but if this applies to anybody, take it in love. You cannot be a traveling prophet that has no spiritual grounding in a church home, no accountability to a church leader. Accountability is a must. Okay? And that means that you just can't be somebody going around from church to church giving people prophecy. I know people who are doing that. God told me go over to somebody's church and give them this word. And it's out of order because you haven't surrendered your own will to be subject to leadership. And people who are not subject to leadership will mess up lives with no accountability and won't take responsibility for the lives that they have messed up. I had to approach a prophet and correct them, and I did it nicely first. I did it in a nice way to try to help them see where they lacked maturity. I'm like, I want to just kindly say this to you with all due respect. What you just did was inappropriate, and this is what it can lead to. But they didn't receive it. So I know it bothered them because they don't like correction. Because before you know it, they came back to me, literally came back to me, trying to chase me to argue with me. They kept calling, and I didn't answer because I wasn't spiritual that moment. And I knew where I was. And I told the young man that he was trying to call me, I said, tell him this ain't the right time to call me. He don't want to call me right now. And so I said, well, I tell you what, we'll set an appropriate time to have this conversation. And so he didn't want to wait on the appropriate time. He just kept calling. Then he changed phones and called from a different number. And he got me. And I said, okay, hold on a minute. And I prayed a quick prayer, Lord, guide my tongue. And so I said, so what is it that you want to know? And he wanted to go in on me and try to attack me. And I said, listen, here's where we're going to end this conversation. I corrected you, which was the right thing. What you were doing can damage a lot of people's lives. You've taken no ownership for it. And because you've taken no ownership, this conversation ends right here. I don't waste my time where a person doesn't take ownership. But just know this, love you, but won't invite you back. And I hung the phone up while I was still spiritual, because then they went in the flesh and they really were trying to attack. I mean, he literally called out on me and tried to say stuff that wasn't even true. Said God showed him something. No, God ain't show you that. He ain't show you that, because I love one woman, and that's my wife. So I know God ain't show you that. But see, you know what that was? It was called a familiar spirit. And a lot of people who should be used by God, when they're walking in their flesh, I feel the anointing coming. When they're walking in their flesh, they see in the flesh. They speak in the flesh. They prophesy from their flesh. And people who are in the flesh, when it happens, feel like they got blessed. But the damage that's done, none of them fully assess. I thank God for one of the women on this line that was able to come to me and tell me about a prophet that offended her. And I said, you're right. I didn't tell her, oh, no, you just need to pray. Because I've seen preachers defend the people they bring to church. I'm first one to tell you, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I really thought they were led by God at first. We're not going to have you harmed. You know, and I pointed those things out to them and they didn't want to accept it. And so I said, that's where the buck stops. You're going to have to learn the hard way. God's got to deal with you differently. You know, but I knew I had to hang that phone up because when they went personal like that, they were trying to get me out of the spirit so I can go toe to toe, you know, because I know me. And I was like, I'm going to hang up. I don't even want to hear the next comment. Click, because I knew me. It'd be Southwest. Tickets are on sale during COVID, and I'm going to be on your door before you know it. So I said, so let's put Craig back. Click up. And, you know, I had to tell myself, you know, it's not about whether you won that one. God won it. You said what God said. You tried to warn a person, and they don't want to hear it. So you got to keep it moving. So we've been very transparent tonight. And that's the only way I know to be, to tell you examples from my prophetic walk. You know, what God has ministered to me about and things God has said to me. And it doesn't make me right all the time, but I'm sharing it with you because I believe, like David says, when the Lord is correcting me, then I'll teach transgressors his ways. I have a responsibility to teach you from my errors as well as my pluses and minuses, you know, and that's really important. So let's talk about this whole surrender piece tonight. I guess the question I want to put on the table to guide us is, what about this presentation sticks out to you tonight? Because there's a lot that's been put on the table. If you just go back for a moment in your head, we talked about the 5 senses, what they actually are. And then there's a 6th sense of just knowing. I talked about how you got to use those senses, but you got to surrender them to God. And then don't be afraid to step out with what you believe God is saying. It's the manner and the spirit in which you do it. You know, and if you're wrong, you take ownership. That, because the more you practice with your gift, the more your gift will be sharpened. Okay. That's why we started off with Hebrews 5:14. You're getting mature food. And when you practice your gift, when you continue to sharpen your gift, that gift makes room for you and it blesses lives. You know, it amazes me, the dreams that God gives me that are so vivid, and I don't have to question anymore, what does that mean? Because it's just what he showed me. That it's wonderful when you can get to the place where your dreams don't just have symbolism, but they are actual replay of something that's getting ready to happen that God is showing you. That's a wonderful feeling. It's a peace you get when God is spoken like that. And you can just go to an individual and say, I had this dream about you. And then the dream such, and they're like, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. And then the Lord starts telling you what to share with them, you know, and it blesses lives, because that is the prophetic. The prophetic ain't meant to be something in a box with question marks on and you trying to figure it out all day long. All right, y'all talk to me. Let's see. Do you guys have the hand raising signal? It's a lot of people on here. Good evening. There's a lot of y'all on here. If you have the symbol to raise your hand, could you do that? And then share what stood out to you tonight so far. And I want us to keep our comments brief because we've got so many people on here. I want each of you, if you have something on your heart about tonight, to add to the conversation. So if I see a hand, I'm going to unmute you. I can unmute everybody, but if we start hearing noise, I got to mute you again. So let me try. Okay, anybody want to share? Let me see, did I unmute you? Yeah, I unmuted all of you.
Yes, you did.
Okay, who is that? Somebody want to share what you got from this tonight? If not, I'm going to start calling on you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
This is Mary Gray.
Hi, Mary.
Hey, Pastor. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Hi.
I'm just so thrilled. And what I'm taking away, because I know it to be true, is that the prophetic with discernment saves lives.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Hallelujah, Jesus. Woo. That just blessed me.
Jesus.
Because I'm thinking about people whose lives were saved because of the prophetic.
Amen.
And ladies and gentlemen, take what she just said. It doesn't have to be some big performance where you're going up and down the aisle saying, "Thus said the Lord, Sister Lulu. Thus said the Lord." No, it actually happens in very personable, closed corners, close quarters, where she can receive what you're saying. Too many times the prophetic has been used to exploit and to hurt people. You know, if God want to tell me stop prostituting, I think it'd be better he said to me one-on-one through a prophet than the prophet grab a mic and say it in front of 300 people in the church and 800 people they watch it live. And the Lord said, "Hey, stop prostituting." I'm damaged for good.
Right.
Right.
Which means it could have saved my life, but the deliverer of the word did not use discretion.
Right.
They didn't discern that this is not the right time or place. Because when it's in the right time and place, it can save lives. Thank you so much for that, Mary. Somebody else want to share what you got from this? What stuck out to you tonight?
I would like to share something.
Yes, Jackie.
This knowing thing. It seems like I've always had it, and I direct it more in a personal setting as far as children are concerned. And then I would get my feelings hurt, but as it went on, because I said, I'm not going to do that no more. But as I went on, I learned to not let that upset me because they need to know it.
Yes, and it goes back to saving lives. And let me say this to what you just said. One of the biggest tricks of the enemy is for you to get your feelings hurt. Because keep in mind now, all of this deals with feelings, discernment. Discernment is about feeling. It's about sensing. And prophetic people are very sensitive people. Very sensitive people. Yes, you are. You're very sensitive people, right? And you were designed that way by God because it will work for his glory. But not if you are constantly in your feelings.
Yes.
You got to be able to separate your feelings from the assignment.
Yes.
Because here's what I know God will do every time. If you can just walk away from what you feel, time will reveal and the person will have to come back to you. Because what God gave you for them.
Yes.
But if you get all in your feelings and they all in their feelings, it's a miss. It's not a hit. I used to always say there was a one prophet that God could bring her to me, and I swear I couldn't run. Because every time she come to me, she's smiling. I didn't know she had a word, you know, because she smiled, and the whole time she's telling me the Lord saying stop sleeping around, she's still smiling. And I'm in the floor crying and weeping. I'm sorry, God, I'm so sorry. And she's like, and he loves you so much, Craig. Brother Craig, he loves you so much. And she's got this big old smile, and I'm like raccoon face, just messed up. But then she's done it in a private space with me, you know, and she's dead and gone. But I so appreciate that Darlene Fortune.
Oh, I love her.
That was the woman.
Oh, yeah.
Darlene Fortune heard from the Lord. Okay.
Yes.
She will be like, Brother Craig. I'm like, yes. So, you know, she didn't take it personal. I couldn't even get mad at her. I had to get mad with God, not her, because she was looking too kind and friendly for me to get mad with her.
Mom was the same way. Mother Gray was the same way.
And Mother Gray was the same way. And look, that's a great example. Her mother was a true prophet that could, if you said I had a dream, she can interpret your dream for you.
Yes.
Her mother was a true prophet. And as a result, her children were prophetic.
Yes.
Her daughter who's living, Sonia, is prophetic, you know, but the mother was the same way. And I go there to say the importance of being under good tutorage. Good examples. You know why we have some people running around hollering and screaming at people? Because they were under somebody that only hollered and screamed at people.
Right.
And that's the example they saw. That's the example people put up with. And so that's the abrasive manner in which they operate. And they want to know why people don't want to receive them. It ain't because people don't want to hear from God. We do want to hear from God. It's that we question how God is moving through you when you're talking to me. Is that God talking or is that you talking? Oh my, this is a good night. Yes.
Right.
Sister Charlotte? Yes. Who was that?
Jackie.
Jackie.
Jackie Jackson.
Yes.
I just appreciate you were sharing about the senses and how I have to learn not to doubt the senses that I do have, because I've had a couple of experiences where, you know, either driving down a certain street or going through a certain neighborhood, and this overwhelming smell, like you said, truly like something is dead or something is dying. And then that heaviness that comes with it. And I'm like, good grief, what is this? You know, and then and now to recognize that, okay, this is probably just one of those discernment senses that I just didn't recognize. And then one of my friends told me, okay, why are you acting like that? And I said, this is awful. And they didn't smell it. Nobody else smelled it. And then they started laughing at me. And I'm like, well, cool. And I said, I need to throw up. You need to stop. And they said, you know what happened? He said 5 people had been murdered through that area that we've gone through, like in like the last week or so. And I was like, whoa. And then there was this house off the River Road that sat back. You probably remember it, Apostle. Sat back from the road, you know, and it was empty and boarded up on the front for seems like years. And why did Hardhead drive down that driveway? And then here comes this overwhelming heaviness, this overwhelming smell that was just like putrid. And I said, no, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. I just had this urgency that I had to flee, you know, and laughing at me again. But as soon as we drove off that property, it was all like, whew, you know, I came out from under whatever this, and then I recognized that it was some kind of evil, some kind of something foul. But, you know, it's good to know that, you know, I'm not going crazy sometimes when, you know, some of these things happen, and I have to recognize that this is part of the gift of discernment. So I appreciate you sharing that. We use all our senses when we discern.
Yes. Look, I'm ready to really make y'all fall out. What happens when you smell it in church?
Jesus. Pray.
And keep in mind now, I'm coming down y'all avenue right now. Keep in mind, people already kind of stay away from you because they already think you strange. They already, they've seen God use you before. So people already separate themselves from you. And now you sitting up in church and God is showing you something and it is driving you crazy because you don't know what do I do, because leadership don't always support it. Come on here. People don't always support it. So you make it, you're weighing between decisions. Do I say something and be further not liked? Do I keep it to myself and be tormented and go to bed with this? And the answer to that is School of the Prophets. You bring it to your prophetic teacher, which in this case is me. I take responsibility because then I can tell you, and some people have done that, and I appreciate you, that you've come to me because you don't want to be in error. And if I've known your leaders or leader, I share with you, this is the way you should best approach that. You know, and that's one of the things that I thank God for this School of the Prophets, because this is really his doing, y'all. This, you know, this, it don't even take effort for us to meet on here. But God, for a whole year, going into the second year, has each of us in a training. Which will lead to my homework assignment for you in a moment. But I want a few more comments, you know, and so you're not by yourself. That's another thing a School of the Prophets helps you to see. You're not by yourself. But you are a very limited group because everybody don't fit. Everybody doesn't have this gifting. I saw Patricia Wilson and Tanya Harris, I think. I saw her and then Lori. Thank you, Jackie, for sharing that. Patricia?
Yes, Apostle, I want to thank you so much for this class. But I heard you mention that we're going to be broken up in teams. And my question is, I know you don't want all of us to call you when we have a question or a dream or vision or anything. Will you put us with someone who is that we can talk to that can
Yes.
kind of help us?
Yes, actually, you're going to have that in each group. Each group is going to have a more mature person in the group that will be not so much the facilitator, but will be the measuring gauge for your group.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm so excited. I can't wait. In 2 weeks, y'all get your first group project. I cannot wait. I'm going to send y'all downtown and tell y'all take a microphone and prophesy. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not going to send y'all like that. Some of y'all, but not all of y'all. Let's go to Tanya Harris, and then we'll go to Lori. I saw Charlotte. Yes, Charlotte. I'm sorry, I overlooked you from a minute ago.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay, I'll come to you right after Tanya and Lori, then Charlotte, and then I see Theo. And let me look on my other screen. I can't see everybody at one time. Anybody still wants to speak? Put your hand up, hold it up, so I make sure I'm okay. Erica, and I see, is it Deborah Johnson that I see? Good. Okay, we're coming your way. All right, Tanya.
Apostle, thank you for tonight. Me and Tracy was discussing, for me, the two things was that it had to be backed up by God's word, because I have been spoken over, but a lot of times it wasn't always in God's word. And then the other thing was, for me, the census. I think the census is so strong because for me, it's the Holy Spirit. When you can sense things, you could just go down a street. Like me and Tracy was just talking, it's a street that's in Odenton on a windy road that just doesn't feel right. And when we got together one day, like something down this road, and she was like, I feel the same way. So it's the census for me.
Is it behind Pioneer City?
Yes.
The back road is Jacob's Road?
Yes.
How about I know that? Because that is, when you said it, I knew it. And it's a spirit of murder.
Yes.
That is so crazy.
One point in time, some people were hung back in that road.
There you go. See? The spirit of murder.
Wow.
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 So yeah, so the spirit for me, the senses and the smells and all of those things, those are like key. That's like first.
Yeah.
Like you'll feel it and you like see someone and you go, something ain't right. It's just those senses.
Yes,
So,
and here's something I want to
you.
say to everybody. Please, if you can't remember this, write this down. And that is, don't doubt the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
because if you keep saying something told me, that's denying him. Watch this, y'all. Don't say something told me anymore. Say, I believe the Holy Spirit has been speaking to me. Because if it's not him, he will correct it and make it clear to you it wasn't him. But when we constantly say something told me, it grieves the Holy Spirit because he's speaking to us.
Right.
Okay.
You don't have to say, I know people say everything ain't God, but the more you surrender to God, the more God you get in here. Hello.
Amen.
Like when we was in that airport and he told me that plane was going to crash. Yes.
Amen.
I'm like, what if I did not hear him? We've been gone. The whole praise team and me.
Right.
Okay, like Mary said, he saved lives. Let's go to Lori.
I was just thankful and grateful that you brought back to my remembrance about the senses, because there's times that I go places, or when I used to go visit my mom, in the rehab when she was in there, I would have these different smells, and it was nasty. Once I went to the hospital, sometimes in the hospital, I would taste
like a sulfur taste, like a metal, nasty.
Spirit
It
of
was
death.
nasty taste and a smell that just overwhelmed me.
Mhm.
I would literally be like so sick. I'd have to leave. I gotta go. I'll see you later. I love you. Bye. I'm gone. And I would
Yes.
have to leave. And as soon as I get out of it, as I'm leaving, I'm praying, God, keep me together, please, Lord. Don't let me get sick all over this place. And different things. And then different places, areas that I go into, if I'm driving or whatever, I get these feelings all over my body sometimes. And
Yes.
it's like a feeling like I got to get out of there before something happens. And different things, it's just different things with the senses. And I had forgot about that because
Yes.
Darlene Fortune was one that used to teach me, and I used to sit underneath her and her
He was
mother.
amazing.
And I used to go to her house and sit, and we would talk and stuff and different things. And she was telling me about it. But over the years, I forgot.
Yes,
And
and you have to be made aware that just like you walk in your flesh and you sense and smell and taste and hear and see, you have to also do the same in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
You have
And
to
this
do the same in the spirit. It's so
this was
important.
refreshing and a remembrance to remind me that is the senses. Don't forget, you do have the senses in this area too, with the discerning and stuff. So that was, this whole class has been, the whole prophetic class is very blessed, have been blessing.
Awesome.
Very,
Thank
very,
you for sharing that.
because it's
Charlotte.
really good stuff.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Charlotte.
Hi. Well, first, Apostle, thank you. Okay. When you said you go to your leader, I'm sitting here thinking, where were you 30 years ago? I needed you. A couple of things stand out for me. One, when you talk about practicing and you mentioned sharpening.
Mm-hmm.
I heard the word sharpening. And I noticed that when I got about 30 days, I had forgotten, about 30 days before I came here last year, I was somewhere, I was living in my car, and I was watching maybe a Jake's 50 some video, and it got so good, I jumped out the car. I'm holding on, shouting till I almost passed out. And I got done, it was like a trick situation. And they said, repeat after me, Lord. And I'm like, Lord, I barely got a breath. Fine tune the gifts that are in me. Fine tune the gifts that are in me. And send me to the people that need me the most. Here I go. And send me to the people. Right? So it seems like I was comfortable with the giftings that I had. Comfortable moving in them. Comfortable. When I got here, things shifted. In other words, I always had like visual gifts. And I could sense things. But then I got here, and the first time it happened, I was at a Recovering Women meeting. I was just asked to come and support or do something. And a person was talking. I heard what they said, but it was almost like I heard one thing in one ear, but then I heard what they didn't say. Excuse me. It was almost like I could discern their heart.
Yes.
Okay. So the more I operated in that, the more fine-tuned it got. But I had something happen the other day that's never happened. Excuse me. Someone was sitting, they were not talking. They were looking regular. And I looked over at their block, and it was like their cheeks began to swell. And I looked, it was almost like I could part their lips, and I saw words in their mouth.
Yes.
And I looked and I said, your mouth is full with words. Whatever's in there, you got to speak it.
Yes.
They spoke it and literally spoke somebody else's deliverance that was on the Zoom.
Awesome.
So my question is, how is it that gifts can shift like that?
Because when your assignment changes, a change of assignment can awaken different senses, different spiritual sensing. You know, in some places you needed the seeing gift, in some places you need the hearing gift. You know, there are other places that you probably needed. You needed the speaking gift. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes God puts you in a place to observe and to see and to hear, and then some place He put you there to speak. And that's why discernment is important, to know what your assignment really is, so that you don't do what He doesn't want you to do. Like, for example, let's say you are a talker all day long anyway. Chances are your assignment ain't gonna be a talking assignment.
Got you.
For real. Because the Holy Spirit will work in you with the areas of your life that you lack the discipline. So if you're used to talking, He's gonna say you're gonna be quiet.
Got it. And I've had that happen.
You know, because in your quietness, you observe with your other gifts, which you couldn't see because you've been talking.
For sure. One more quick question. You mentioned when you said something in church, you have a smell or you see something, and you're in a church setting, and you said you go to the leader. I'm not talking about Fresh Start. What do you do when what you sense or what you see is the leadership, besides pray and run?
Well, it depends on the kind of relationship you have with the leadership too.
Okay.
Because some leadership is very open to when God is saying something to you for them. In fact, I think it's good that leadership has prophetic people that can speak into their life safely, that a leader can be vulnerable. But sometimes God will show you just because you're gifted anyway, but it's not for you to say because you don't have that right relationship.
Got it. Thank you.
This is a mature group here. I love it. I'm coming to you, Theo. I got to go to Erica, then to Theo, and then we're going to Joy. That'll be my last ones. Yes, Erica.
Can you mute me, Apostle?
Sure. Got you.
I just wanted to say one, thank you, because oftentimes I've come across a lot of prophets, been across a lot of prophetic classes. And the one thing I hear is that you have to spend time in the prophetic and they clocked hours, and they never talk about if you're wrong. It's always like you have to be right all the time. I have never heard that you can be wrong. And being wrong, being younger, when I was younger in this gift, I was wrong about something, and it was to somebody close to me. And it makes you not want to be wrong when you hurt somebody.
Yes.
Spoke something out of season, not fully understanding what it was I was seeing. So what it did, not necessarily made me afraid, but it made me more careful about what it is that I'm seeing, and to ask God, what is this? Instead of going off of what I think it is. And it needs to be spoken of more, because everybody is not getting this same information. Because I went to a class a couple years ago, and the person came across, I want to say, almost arrogant.
Oh yeah.
With their prophecy, to the point it turned me off, because I was going to reach out to that person. This is before the School of the Prophets or anything like that, because the person I was being taught under passed away. And so then it was like, okay, so where do I go? Who do I go to? Because I know I needed mentorship. And the person was just like, you need to have at least 1,000 hours in the prophetic. And I'm like, what does that even mean? But this is the type of stuff that is being said to other people. And like, and if you don't have this many hours in the prophetic, then you are not going to be as accurate, and blah, 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 blah. And so what that does is that puts people off, because there's not always a school of the prophets, and you have to be led by God. But you're saying, if I don't spend this amount of time in quote unquote the prophetic, then am I not a prophet? So thank you for saying that we can be wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, being wrong is part of owning the part that God wants you to own, that you're just a human oracle. You know, I think the more you decrease, the more He increases, you know. And I'm not talking about being lacking confidence. I'm talking about wanting to get out of the way so that He can say what He says. That's why sometimes you'll hear me say, if you've been around me when God has spoken, and I'll say, okay, that's all He's given me and I'm done. You know, because then we get into this thing, we want to make something happen. And we probably should have went home an hour ago, you know, because now we done messed up more people in that 30 minutes than we did in the lives we blessed in an hour. You know, people just go beyond, and instead of just saying, I'm a human being, I think God is saying this to me, to you, does it make sense or not? It doesn't make sense, then the wrong person. Sorry. That's it. But
Okay.
that's called ego and pride.
Yes.
We're full of ourselves. And some of the most profound prophets have been dead wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the willingness to admit it is so critical, because the time we're living in right now is people are getting less and less trust in prophetic voices, because we're seeing some of the big names that are proclaiming stuff, and God said, I'm gonna let you be wrong intentionally, because I don't like you taking my glory.
Right.
Okay.
Because I'll never forget, I heard Juanita Bynum some years ago when I was under Full Gospel. She came and said there will be no more superstars in the church. That was the prophecy, not knowing she was the first one to fall. I'm not lying. She said, God said there'll be no more superstars in my church. Nobody take my glory. And that's when all that stuff happened to her, between her and her husband. It was like a couple months after that. She was one of the first ones of the quote unquote superstars to fall. So she gave that word, not knowing she would be the first one to be affected by the word she gave. But the other thing,
right into one of our lessons, when the word applies to us first. How do you deliver a word that applies to you as well? And the way to deliver it is, first you receive it, and then include yourself when you're talking to others. Don't say, well, God is telling me to tell you. God is saying this to us, me included. You know, because God can still speak to you, though you're part of what needs to be corrected.
Yes,
absolutely. Can you receive the correction?
So the second thing was the book. You told us to get the James Gall book. Is that still a good book to go by?
Yes, it's a good book. We're gonna talk about that too, though, because I just spoke about him a little earlier. The prophet can have a good book and be in a bad place.
That's why I was like, is that still good?
I'm a firm believer. Just because people have some down moments don't mean God didn't use them.
Okay.
And so I believe his book will bless us mightily. And in due season, he may come on here and bless us mightily. You know what I mean? That's where I'm responsible to be a gatekeeper, to discern on a different level, is this a time for us or not with people? Yeah. We're going to Joy, and then we go to Theo. Or did I say Theo then Joy? I don't remember. Was it Theo then Joy?
Yeah.
Theo.
Yeah, I was so
It was Joy then Theo.
Oh, it was Joy and Theo. Thank y'all. I ain't always right. Joy, can you speak to us? And Theo, you'll be the last one.
Okay.
Well, I know one of the things that what I feel is being brought out of the lesson tonight is the level of trust that we have to be in with God in order to operate in the prophetic. Because once we understand the different channels of prophecy, whether it's the spirit of prophet, the gift of the prophet, or the actual office of the prophet, we all have to be in a level of trust with God in order to function in either capacity. And I think what happens is that we get caught up in the unctions and the functions and the feelings behind it, that we don't bring our natural self down in order to hear what God is saying, if it's the right thing to say, and if it's not the right thing to say. And that's how we say things out of order. Not to mention that the part of the prophet's reward is the word of his mouth. And so that sometimes a prophet can speak a thing that they didn't hear God say, and God has to honor that because the prophet spoke it. And so you have to be careful in the words that you choose and in the words that you say, because, like, for example, Prophet Elisha, when he was at that woman's house and she gave him that room, and I'm going to go full into the story, but he didn't have a word. He didn't say, oh, the Lord told me. He said, what do she need? And he said, I don't see a child running around. And so he spoke that into her life. So when God gives us that gift, he's given us the capabilities to bring it past whether he said it or not. So therefore, we have to be in a level of trust with him so that he trusts us, that we're not speaking it out of wrong context, out of the wrong spirit, and that he is going to honor it whether it's right or wrong. And also with that, I really truly believe that God is developing prophets in the office of prophets, because the way it was set up is that nobody in the government did anything till they went to a prophet.
That's right.
So They say, is there a man of God that I can go to before I make this move, whether they went to war, whether they went anything. So there is going to be prophets that has to be in that place to where the government has to come to the church and say, we need to hear what God is saying. And that is the development that we need, not to speak houses and cars and you're going to get a job next week, but what is the state of the union that we're in, because we need to hear from God and they're going to need to come to us for that. So I think that we need to continue to build a level of trust with God through that relationship in order to be that effective.
Thank you. And I'm so excited how God is reigniting your passion and the gift that was in you.
No, not gonna
that
eat.
you tried to
He's not gonna
abandon.
eat. He's supposed to be in the bed sleep.
Let's see, who's that?
Come
Let's talk to Theo and let's talk to Shamir. Shamir,
You also,
for a long time.
and you also said Deborah Johnson.
And Deborah Johnson. Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Apostle. It was a great lesson. Everything you said kind of, it mirrored one of the revelations God gave me. He told me once I was meditating on this word for a few months. He said, be wise as a serpent. And everything you said lined up with that word he told me. Because I was like, Lord, why? A serpent sounds evil, like Garden of Eden. But he took me deeper. He showed me what a serpent is and what a serpent does and how
exactly.
We have to know when to move and how to move. A serpent has the wisdom of the serpent is the fact that it has sensors all over its body. That's why it's so wise, because it can feel the climate that it's in. So no matter what climate that you're in, the Lord wants us to know when to move and when to and how to maneuver, what to dodge certain things, certain traps of the enemy.
Right.
And they can sense when people are coming from miles away. And he had to teach me how to sense things before they come near me, so things don't so the enemy doesn't entangle me. But the biggest thing that you mentioned about discerning right from wrong is how it's like, so we have to be wise and make sure we hear God. And then there's a level of patience we have to have whenever we deliver a word, because if we deliver it too early, then it won't be received well.
Right.
If we deliver it too late, we might miss the moment. But if we're patient, then we can allow God to push us. There's always like a nudging of the Holy Spirit when He pushes me to do something. I know it's not my will, it's not my anxiety, because when He pushes it, then He pulls something out of me, and I can regurgitate something He gave me, and I know it's Him because it's not of me.
Right.
And so that's so important. And the last thing He gave me while you related this is how we have to know His word. And it has to be congruent with everything we say. Has to be congruent with the word. And He said, "My sheep know my voice."
Yes.
And so it's not that we just know the word, but we gotta know how to speak the word. We gotta know what God's voice sounds like. Because you could say I love you, but you could say it in so many different ways. And you can say, don't do that, and you can say it in so many different ways. But if you say it the right way, it will touch someone the right way, and it can transform their entire life. I've had situations where, but one thing I said, because I said it in a loving way, because I put it in so much grace, an atheist broke down in front of me crying because she didn't understand that God still loved her, even though she could have been in sin, even though she was in the wrong or she was mad at God. Because so the way we say it is everything. There's so many times I was offended. That's sorry, this is the last thing I'm gonna say, but the last thing is, offense is the biggest trap of the enemy that he will send to us, because it would have people leaving churches too soon. It would have people holding grudges against people that they shouldn't, and disrespecting people.
Yes.
My house wouldn't have been healed if I held grudges against my family. But when the Lord taught me how to pull down a fence, I was able to move from a place of grace instead of bitterness. Because the bitterness will turn a prophet into a witch. And when you start getting bitter, you'll start saying things that you shouldn't have said. You'll get out of character, and you'll curse people that God wants to bless. And we're all God's children, so we should all be blessing each other. He even said, pray for your enemies and love those who persecute you. So how much more do we have to love each other when we're in the same family?
Yes. Thank you for
But
sharing.
yeah, thank you for this
And
class.
I want to say this because you're a young prof and you have a lot of wisdom and you have a lot of knowledge. And that is, just remember, you will fail and it's okay. Because there'll be times that you would think without a shadow of doubt it was God, and God has allowed that to be a moment to prove your frailty. That's something that younger people sometimes struggle with, because you just knew it was God, and then sometimes you'll find yourself saying, well, why would God tell me something? And it's not that. It's just that God always wants us to know that we are the instrument, but He is the voice. And that is it's like when you get up and do lip sync. I could get up and I can lip sync Luther Vandross, anybody, but don't tell me to let no words come out with it, because you'll clearly know that's not Luther. But if it's Luther's voice, I perfectly make all the mimics that mimic it, then you would say great performance, because it resembled nothing I did took away from his voice. So that's really important. Thank you, Deborah, and then we go to Shamir. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me, Bishop?
Yes,
Apostle? Oh, okay. I thank you for the class, because I was having a little issue with my discerning spirit, not so much God revealing to me, but being able to express it to someone that's very close to me, what God had said to me. So he said it a couple of times, then I said to myself, God, you're not saying this. And he kept bringing it back to me and bringing it back to me. So my dilemma is, I know I have to deliver the message, but I don't really know. I'm just like the young man said, I'm trying to be more diplomatic with it, trying to put a cushion with it. But I know I have to deliver the message. So what way do I go towards that?
Sure. Well, it starts with being right here in the class, because listen, ladies and gentlemen, we're not in the class because we know. We're in the class because we want to find out, and so the goal of being here is not to prove as much word as me or as much anything, because some of y'all probably know more. I don't proclaim to be the greatest one on here, but I am the instructor on here, which means that I have a level of responsibility to you that God requires me to give you sound advice and wisdom about the gift that's in you. And being here is where you find out the how to deliver. And because you're here, God's going to show you how to deliver that word. He's going to show you how. I'm just here to affirm that you're in the right place.
Okay.
And to be patient. I heard Theo just say being patient because of timing. Because sometimes when we get something, we want to deal with it right away. But the timing is something that you don't always master. People always say to me, when are you going to straighten out this problem? When are you going to preach about this in the church? And I'm like, when God tells me to. Just because I know the problem don't mean he wants me to address the problem. Because he could be working on the person himself and I could mess it all up, And so I think that people too often don't wait for the discernment to kick in. And that's what you're waiting on, for God to show you how to deliver it. And because it's God, that's the first step. You now know it's him. That's first, you're like, I know that God, you ain't. And he said, yeah, that's what I'm keep showing you. So you know that. Now you're just waiting on the approach. And that's what we're learning with the 5 senses of the prophetic. How to sense what God feels and how to deliver it in the way that God will want you to deliver it. Lord knows I didn't erase so many things I was about to say to people on Facebook. I erased it over and over again because I know I have to discern even on there what to say and how to say it. There have been things I put on and I went back and took it off because I'm like, this ain't the right way. This is, and it's about being a human being because God knows your heart about this.
Yes.
Yeah, He's going to use you too. Yes, He is.
Thank you, Apostle. I appreciate it.
Yes. Shamir, where are you? Speak to us. And
first, I want to say hello, everyone.
Hi.
Apostle, I'm sure you're very aware of how appreciative of this class that I am because I did not understand anything that I've been experiencing. I believe that this gift has always been on me, but I feel like it went into full drive when I gave birth to my son. So I'm so happy
Wow.
that you spoke on senses and smelling. Like, that is so real, and tasting. Because
Yeah.
I've experienced that a lot. But recently I smelled, I saw lungs and I smelled mildew. And I was explaining it to my sister because, you know, before I hit the road from leaving her house, we pray because she wants me to make it in one piece. I was explaining this to her. Long story short, in her house, in each vent, there was mold.
Wow.
And it freaked us out. Like, it spooked us out. So, you know, he expedited her move. Like, she was already saying that she wanted to move, but that spooked us out because we're just like, oh my God, like, who are we? Like, who the heck are we? Like, God loves us so much.
Yes.
So I'm just thankful for this class because I don't know what be going on. I don't know why he chases after me, but I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Like, I'm grateful.
Sounds like a good candidate.
Yeah.
I don't know many people, even in the Bible, who didn't run.
I swear, because I'm trying, you know, like, I'm walking correctly now. So.
Yeah, I'm proud of you too.
I'm happy.
Someone has on a TV or something in the background. I just can't find you though. Just be mindful of it if you can mute. I do have a question that came in from one of our seers on here that says that they're sensing that COVID started with a great death or a tragic death, like a family member or someone famous like Kobe Bryant. Why is that? Well, one, that's because immediately after Kobe Bryant's death is when we began to experience the onset of COVID in the United States.
That's right.
It didn't actually stop then because it actually started back, probably they're thinking tracing back to August or September of last year overseas. But what I do know about it is that the origin of it is a bat, the BAT, the animal bat. This is going to really knock you out. And it comes from human beings moving their businesses and their lives into the area of natural habitat. And so natural habitat is striking back. And so the wet market, as it is associated as in China, is an area where bats, that was their home, you know, and so it began there. Some people think it began with the eating and the sacrificing of a bat, but let me just kind of give you this to blow your mind. The answer to curing us from it is something that's the shape of a bat, which is your mask. When I started making masks, I realized the mask is the shape of a bat. I was like, this reminds me of how the serpent in the desert that was killing the people, they looked at a brazen serpent to be healed. And what are we telling people that we know really works? Wear a mask. You know, so I'm not really sure about who it might be tied to or sacrifice, who might have been sacrificed. It could very well be, I'll look into it. It could very well be that because there is word that Kobe Bryant's death was a sacrifice. Now that is very strongly out there as it pertains to the Illuminati. That has been put out there that he was a sacrifice. I don't know. I do have people in that dark circle that I talk to on a regular to know what's going on in that circle. What are people saying? And so I will post that question to see what's out there, what's happening, you know, because information is power, you know, and when you find the source of something, you can speak to it at the source. I give you another example of that is finding the source of something is when we look at David in the scriptures and when he became king, for some reason, there was still a famine in the land for 3 years. And when he asked God, what's the root of it? God said, it's the murders that occurred with the Gibeonites while Saul was trying to impress everybody. You know, very narcissistic leader he was, okay? And he was trying to impress people. And so he killed a people in trying to impress the people. Now, I say that to say there could be very much a strong tie to why America is reaping so harshly the effects of COVID versus other nations, because you've got to go back and think about the lives of all those people that have been separated from the children at the border. Which even now, when the question was brought to the president, there was no accountability for it. to the vice president. There was no accountability for it. It's like, oh, well. And I think about what would happen if my children are separated from me. That's almost a stain that can't be forgiven. That child grows up with the hatred.
Yeah.
That parent goes back to whatever place they're in with the hatred because you have separated them from the very thing that's still a part of them, their child. And so, yes, I believe that there could be consequences we're suffering because of actions that are taken. That's why we need intercessors and people to pray on behalf of this nation and this leadership. Last night, the Lord led me to post an apostolic prayer. He said, everybody's tied up. You got to post this prayer. And if enough people who are apostles in different regions will pray this prayer, I will settle this. And I was scared. I was like, when you put it out there, you don't get it back. And he said, don't be scared. He says, I'm with you. I told you many times before, I called the shots on it and I've been accurate and I'm going to use you now. And I went on there and posted it. And lo and behold, almost 150 people agreed in that. And when we got up this morning, there was a different spirit in charge. And then the Lord said, tell them to pray this prayer straight through January. Okay. So yes, my brother that posed that question, it could very well be tied to the death of an individual. I just know that the physical source of it is intermingling in territory with bats. And so this is actually a disease that comes from bats. And so we do know that there's a spiritual attachment to it with the spirit of Python, because the way it infects most people is through taking away their breath. And the Python spirit does suck it befriends you and sucks the life out of you. And this virus works the same way. It's through friendly contact, and then lives are taken. So thank you for bringing that tonight. This has been a powerful, full night. We have definitely been here a while tonight. I appreciate all of you hanging in there. I don't want to close without recognizing our pastors that are on the line tonight. Dr. Connie Johnson's on the line tonight. I'm perusing through. Pastor Candace Owens, I saw her. I believe I saw her on the line tonight. Let's see. Did I see her? I think
Arlene Mitchell.
Arlene Mitchell.
Yes, I'm coming to her too. Pastor Arlene Mitchell is on the line tonight. God bless you, Pastor, out of Raleigh. Pastor Greg and Ardreen Hale are on the line tonight. God bless you guys. They're up here on the top. If you all can't see them, they're at the top. I'm going through trying to make sure I get all the pastors that are on here tonight. Who am I missing? Anybody? And I'm not talking about the Lord told you a pastor, meaning we know you're a pastor. That's a joke, y'all. Prophetic joke. Okay. This has been a great night. Here's your homework assignment for tonight. I want you in your journal to commit a page to 1 page each. To page 1 will be your sense of smell. Page 2 would be your sense of hearing. Page 3 will be dedicated to your sense of touch, which is feeling, and that can be emotional as well. Page 4 will be your dedication to hearing, I believe. Which one did I not add? Taste. Taste will be number 5. Okay, so in other words, it doesn't matter what order you put them. I want you to list your 5 senses. And on each page, I want you to just jot down things that have happened throughout your life where that sense, that inner sense was awakened. It doesn't have to be right now. It might be when you were a child and you saw some things. Put that under your C column, what you saw.
You said hearing twice.
Yeah, but I don't mean it. What I'm saying is that I'm going by memory, and I want you to put a page for hearing, a page for seeing, a page for taste, a page for touch, and 1 for smell.
Seeing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what order. Taste, smell, touch, hear, feel. Okay, and I want you to try to remember as many things as you can that were times that this happened. Don't write a book because it's your journal. Just make enough notes that you know what it means. Like for me, the first seeing I had was, I know I saw the face of Satan when I was 4. I was 3. Sorry, I was 3. I was in the crib. I know I saw his face. I'll never forget.
Wow.
And then when I was 8, lying in bed, I heard the devil say, I'm going to kill you. I heard his voice. Okay. And keep in mind, these hearing, seeing, feeling, they could be the things that were evil or good. It doesn't, I need you to be honest with yourself. Because here's what you're going to find. Some of us have been, our gift has been so shadowed by darkness that this class is going to deliver you from that.
Amen.
So that you don't have a dark ministry. But you got to understand, in some of your families, people have made sacrifices with their lives or their children and grandchildren, you know, and you're experiencing the aftermath of this. So you need to be very honest with yourself about what you've seen, smell, touch, feel, hear, you know, and then we're going to take it a step further in next week's class. So we're going deep, y'all. We're cutting deep. We're going deep. Okay. This is surgery. This is surgery.
Hey, Apostle.
Yeah.
It's Shamir. Can we, so as far as sight, you mean like in vision or in like real time? Because there's been times that I've saw things that, okay. So
in vision.
Is it okay to jot down like if I saw something before?
Yeah.
There's been plenty of times that I have.
That's fine. Because in a bit, we're going to separate the two. Because we got to separate the flesh from the spirit and make some connection to where we need God to clarify some things for us. Because some people, for example, will have a lot of bad dreams. And I don't believe it's always from the Lord. I think we got to identify the area of our senses that needs healing.
Amen.
Excuse me, I felt that. Sorry, I felt that.
Apostle.
Yeah, we're going deep this semester. Yes.
Apostle, before you close, could I just ask you to quickly, briefly touch on something that I heard after I asked you a question?
Yes.
Theo made a statement that hit me in my soul because I immediately saw 15, 20 faces from my past. He said, bitterness turns a prophet into a witch. And it's like, it just pulled it in.
Jesus.
It was like, okay, I just need you to please touch on it. Because it just pulled, and I know you know.
Yes.
The first face, but
yes,
I never heard it verbalized that way, but my God, that's got to be the truth.
Yes, because it is true. And if you go back and look at it, disobedience is the root of it.
Jesus.
Disobedience is the root of it. So for you in this assignment, you got to take that piece and look at what did you see? What did you hear? What did you sense when he said that? Because it's going to also reveal people in our lives.
Oh my goodness.
And some of the people in our lives, though they meant good, it may have been the enemy using them. And then there's some people in our lives that though we didn't feel they meant good for us, we needed what they gave us. Okay. So we're going deep, y'all. We're going deep. We're going deep. Woo, hallelujah. Patricia? Wait a minute. I'm unmuting you. I just unmute yourself again. I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Apostle. Do you want us to continue Amos? I know we read 1 and 2.
Yeah, just read 1 and 2 is fine because I'm going to come back to that.
Okay.
Because I'm just introducing the census. And once we get into that, Amos is going to make a whole lot of sense.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes. Because let me ask you all if you ever thought about this. When the prophets in the scriptures heard God, did they all hear an audible voice or not? Okay, now I'm going to leave it alone right there. Okay, the Phyllis Makel, I'm sensing what's going on in your head over there. Phyllis Makel Fields.
Actually, I'm really heavy right now. And because I'm in a lot of places right now.
Yes.
And especially with the census.
Yes.
And especially with the, how can I put it? Knowing that it's really God and not you. Like for an example, like if there's something going on and say like, I don't like it, but my flesh don't like it. But then there's another side of me. It's like, okay, why? What's going on? Why don't you like it? I mean, it's, it's like, it's more like a questioning, trying to get to the root of why you feel this way, why you think
Absolutely.
this, and that's where I am. I'm trying to decipher a whole lot of things.
That's the right place to be, because a prophet must discern before they open their mouth.
Okay.
Remember, we said discerning is separating.
Mm-hmm.
We got to separate the flesh of the message from the spirit of the message.
Right. Okay.
So that we get the right message to the right person the right way.
Okay.
And so I want to say this, because when you talk about, kind of thinking about when I'm right or when I'm wrong, it's really not so much about as much as right and wrong as it is clear and blurry.
Okay.
Remember, I gave y'all the example of the TV. Started with the black and white TV with all the fuzzies, moved up to the color TV. You got color, but it's still fuzzy. Moved up to the projecting TV. It's bigger, but it's fuzzy. You didn't know it was fuzzy until you got a flat screen.
Okay.
Now the flat screen lets you see what you really didn't see. Now high definition should make you really see. Now you refuse to see anything other than high definition, right? So this is the same thing about our prophetic walk. You've got to be able to see that as sharp as you were before, it was blurry. You'll be sharper now. There are too many people that are living in the past like it was sharp.
Yeah.
I remember the time when God was using these such. Well, God ain't using you like that no more. So let's get sharpened.
Right.
And amen.
One time years ago, God would use me to lay people on the floors. I don't lay them in the floors no more. Some people don't even go to the church because I don't lay them in the floors no more.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's not how he moves with me anymore. And I ain't gonna go fake it. So I don't lay you in the floors. I bring somebody who does. But I don't, that's not my call anymore. I used to walk across chairs and lay people out. That ain't what I'm supposed to do. So, yeah, this is good.
Yes. Can I say something, Bishop?
Yes.
There's been a situation recently in my family where my sister got COVID from work, then my father got it. And then all these things are happening and they're looking at me and I'm 70 years old. But I said, no, you younger ones are going to have to take care of this. Now that was hard, but where I am and the physical things and my age, you younger ones are going to have to handle this. It's not that I don't love my parents, but I can't go in that house. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And they're looking at me and they might put me in the conversation or they might not. I said, well, I had my turn. It's your turn now.
Right.
And I can see where God is working in that and working with my parents because they're strong-willed seniors.
Yes.
And they're going to have to, well, I prayed about it and I can see where God is working in that because I also know their personalities.
Yes. And here's the thing I feel that I need to say to you about that is you can't always convince others of what you know.
Right.
You just have to go with what you know. And as a prophet, we're learning too that every place is not a good place for you at that time. And you have to guard yourselves as well because environment will impact your gift. And so you gotta protect your gift as well. Relationships will impact your gift. So when you're in the season where God's trying to use you, you got to determine if the relationships in your life are aligning so that you're not in a war that comes out in your gift.
Yes.
So, well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, with all discipline, it's 9:30. I've got to, but I want to say I love you, and I'll see you guys next month on the first Friday with your assignment done. You won't have to share it with me, but you're going to build on it. I appreciate you. I love you. Please get my book if you hadn't gotten it already. I am doing another drive-by book signing on next Sunday, not Sunday coming, but the following Sunday at 1:00 p.m. to 2 p.m. And so also the book is available on our church's app page, and it's also available on the church website under the shopping section, which is fscgb.org/shop. The book is available on there because I do want to do a session where we talk about some things in the book because it's still yet a very prophetic piece of material. Okay. God bless you all. If you have any other questions and things you want to share with me, please send it to bishop.freshstartchurch. I'm typing it in at gmail.com. Pastor Candace, I saw her come back in there. I just saw her. Thank you all so much. All the pastors, all our elders from all the churches, all y'all repping your church that are on here, tell your pastors, I said, thank you. And share with your pastors what you're getting. All right. The more you connect your pastors to what you're getting, the more your pastors will see your gift as a necessity in your congregations. Even though y'all are virtual, we're all virtual right now, but for the most part, but still, there is room for the prophetic. If you guys don't know, you watch our broadcast, and when you get an opportunity, Damian Day is our head prophet in our house, and he had been out on an injury and came back Sunday, was spot on, like he had never left, you know, and I could tell that prophetic was there, which church needs the prophetic alongside everything else. We can't just be practical teachers. We got to also point people to a future that looks hopeless, but we know what God is hopeful. Okay. Love you all so much. Have an absolutely wonderful night. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Thank you so much.